Would Bonnie win against Hope if they had a head-on battle? The fandom loved this topic. I mean, they was at each other's throats for months about it. I had to get on here and I had to say something as the TVD god, The first comment that I actually commented, a part of this discussion, I said that no one knows enough about the Vampire Diaries universe to even know why Bonnie would walk away from this fight and hope, untouched. This hopeless fight. So everyone commented back to that comment that I said, right? They said, what do you know about the Vampire Diaries universe, Demetrius? Who are you? I can't cuss on YouTube. I made Bonnie edits. I made Hope edits. That's what they said to me. Bonnie fans was like, yes, you know your stuff. Whatever, They don't really know their stuff. They come to me to find out their stuff. But Hope fans was like, what the hell do you know, Demetrius? And to answer that question, I would say that I've spent a lot of my years, I think 12 years, going on 13 years in the fandom, Someone who's watched the Vampire Diaries since I was 10 years old. Someone who knows the lore like the back of my hand. I mean, truly, I am the GOAT here, but that's neither here nor there. You feel me? That's pretty snobbish stuff, so I won't get too much into it. No one likes a self-centered, a braggart. You know what I mean? As far as this Bonnie and Hope fight, Bonnie is a sidekick. We know this. A fully functioning witch as well. First of her kind as being fully functioning and a sidekick at the same time. I feel like when I say these things, people don't fully intake these things. They don't fully grasp these things, but it's fine. We're not talking to children here. We're talking to people with functioning brains. You know what I mean? Okay, cool, fine. Now let's bring up Hope, your favorite. Hope is a tribrid, right? Vampire, witch, werewolf, right? Hope at her peak was cooking up. Even before, people say that she was nerfed in Legacies, but heck, she was the Team Avengers before there was a Team Avenger. She was the Avenger! She was Captain America. She was Thor coming in the clutch. On your left, Rogers! She was the GOAT, In Legacy, she was the GOAT. But in this fight, she becomes a loser. In this fight, Hope gets spanked. Bad, hard, harshly. It's the absolute truth. She gets put belt 2. And why is that, right, Demetrius? Considering that Hope is a witch, a vampire now, and a werewolf, Bonnie has the ability, given that she's sidekick, to mind, this is just one scenario. This is if she doesn't even want to take Hope out. You know what I mean? Of course, she probably couldn't because that's a whole different question. Bonnie, this is going to be a long video, as you can tell. You feel me? I'm just going to be ranting and ranting and ranting. But shush! And listen. In the Vampire Diaries, when we see Silas, right? He's a sidekick. My dog's a full-blown sidekick. He's cooking up. And he's able to compel Katsia, who is canonically, you feel me? Let the fandom tell it. They're often wrong about everything. Let Julie tell it. She's often wrong about everything because she's... Anyways, who is canonically, let the fandom tell it, the strongest witch of all time, period, point blank, full stop. And she was able to be compelled by Silas. Easiest thing in the world, to be honest. He did it like it was the easy. He did it like it was breathing. You know what I mean? He did it like it was breathing. He was able to do this to a witch. If we're talking about Hope, she's part witch. If we're talking about vampirism, Silas was able to compel Nadia. This is not mind control, people. We're talking bigger stuff. We're talking the we're talking the magnum opus. This is Silas' greatest work. You know what I mean? His compulsion is like one of the greatest things about him, to be honest. If we're talking about true power here, Silas was able to compel Nadia. She's a vampire. If we're talking about watch this. Let's take a moment to take a breather really quickly. I know you Hope fans are livid right now, but it's fine. It's fine. We will glaze Hope and we will glaze Bonnie in equal measure. I could care less, to be honest. Like I said, my GOAT is Silas. But in this conversation, you will not discredit a black queen. Damn it. If you want to talk about werewolves, right? The werewolf side of Hope. As far as her werewolf side, I mean, werewolves were created canonically in the Vampire Diaries universe by Inadu. Who is what? Canonically, what is Inadu? You said what? She's a witch. Yes, class. Yes. With this realization, you realize that witches created the werewolves. And yet, when approached by a sidekick, when a sidekick attempted, not even really attempted, to compel a witch, it worked as easily as breathing. Let that seep in for the moment, class. In theory, right? It's not even really a theory, to be honest, to be very, very concise. I don't think this is a theory at all. You know what I mean? If we're talking really the escalation, the natural inclinations of the Vampire Diaries universe and the operations of how the universe is formed and works and operates, one would have to conclude that it's a trickle-down system, to be honest. You feel me? If you're a sidekick, you can compel a vampire. Confirmed. You feel me? Confirmed! Ah! If you're a sidekick, you can compel a witch. Did you know for a long time the witches, we didn't even, up until season 4, we thought the witches were the end-all be-all. Genuinely. You feel me? Genuinely. You feel me? We thought the witches were the end-all be-all, guys. The creme de la creme, you know what I mean? The peak of the universe, you know? But it grows higher. Canonically speaking, sidekicks have been able to compel witches and vampires. Vampires were created by witches. Werewolves were created by witches. In theory, sidekicks could also be able to compel werewolves just as well because they were able to compel the vampires that the witches created. I mean, truly, if we're being honest, sidekicks, right, are like the creme de la creme of this entire thing. I mean, the true origin story of it all, you know, because all witchcraft and truth comes from psychic energy. I mean, as we both know. I mean, truly, you people didn't think this through, did you, Hope fans? I know. And I will glaze Hope. Towards the end of this video, I will glaze Hope, and it will all be fine because you guys are going to get your panties in a bunch and create a whole bunch of edits about how she's better than Bonnie, when in truth, she's not because she sucks. But it's fine. It's fine. Okay, now let's talk about this head-on collision. Right? We have Hope here. We have Bonnie here. What I just told you about compulsion, about the power, the overwhelming, non-negotiable power that Bonnie's words, you feel me? Just her words, not even her fist. You dig me? But Bonnie's words have over Hope Mikaelson. Entire being. You feel me? Hence compulsion. Now that we are really diving into that, we've got done with that and got that out the way, right? Let's say this. Let's say that Hope, right? This is Hope Mikaelson fans' greatest, wettest dream. You know what I mean? Let's say that Hope is going against Bonnie, right? And she actually kills Bonnie. Oh! No, the Bennett. No. That would be nice, right? Nice little. A lot of Hope fans, after seeing that Bonnie died, would be like, yeah, Hope wins. Clearly. And then there would be like a lot of Hope edits, you know what I mean? Right there, you know, the Hope fans believe they have won. Correct or incorrect? I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. No! You have not won. You know why you haven't won? Because, watch this. I love this so much. I myself have discovered such a great theory. It's not really a theory, it's a fact. I too myself have discovered such a great profound realization. And I've truly, watch this, guys. I truly have found a great, profound, newfound appreciation for Bonnie Bennett, because this theory is about to be magnificent. When I was younger, right? Not even when I was younger, I think I'll say a couple months ago, even a couple years ago, right? Like say a year ago, I thought, man, all this talk about Bonnie being the greatest, but she's not immortal. I mean, come on, she's immortal. Who cares, right? She can't be in conversations with people like Ken, not even with people like Hope. It's unfortunate, but it's true. No, I'm just playing. I never really considered Hope to be anything, to be honest. So it was more so about Ken, right? My scruples with this whole body being the all powerful of it all was always was in direct conflict with the whole Ken of it all. You feel me? The Jin of it all. You know what I mean? The Lin of it all. You know what I mean? And the Cade of it all and the Silas of it all. You feel me? Truly immortal beings. Truly the best of us. If I do say so myself. But then I had this realization, right? I said she's mortal. What can she do? What can she do? She can easily beat Hope, that's for sure. But that's besides the point. Then I came to this realization going on like 3 days ago, to be honest. Like 3 or 4, to be honest. And my realization was that, let's say if Hope does successfully get Bonnie demolished, right? Complete demolished Bonnie. Absolutely wipe the floor with Bonnie. Let's say Hope does it, right? Hope fans are happy. What if Bonnie let out a psychic burst? You're screwed. You guys don't understand, and this is where the lore comes into play. People who haven't seen season 5 doesn't understand anything. People who haven't seen season 6 or 7 or 8 doesn't understand anything. So far, canonically speaking, with Silas dying while being a psychic, well, he actually died while being a witch, so that's a whole different story. But Silas died under very, very specific conditions. Very specific conditions. Very, very, very specific conditions. You feel me? And that's nice, right? Silas died a unique death, right? Oh my gosh, we have something very specific to you. Go back to becoming a witch, then you die that way, you're good to go. As far as Cade, right? No, as far as Sybil and Celine, let's really go like down, up, right? Down, up, right? Let's not even talk about Bonnie really quick. Let's talk about Sybil. Let's talk about Silas, Sybil, Celine, Cade. Boom. I just talked about Silas, right? I said he had a unique death, right? We have something to revert you back to a witch, and then you die a regular witch death. Nice. Kudos, right? Now let's talk about Celine and Sybil. They died, right? They died. Silas died and he didn't release a psychic burst because by all means he wasn't a psychic. He did me, like whatever. As far as Sybil and Celine dying as psychics, let's be very specific here. People like to spew this whole rhetoric of, oh my gosh, the siren of it all. The siren plot line sucked, and the siren this and the siren that. You know what I mean? Truly, let's be honest really quickly. Sirens are literally, let's be very honest with ourselves. Not even with ourselves, but just as a human being right now. Let's be very honest. Sirens is quite literally just the woman version of psychics. That's it. That's the only difference. That's like the difference between saying actress and actor. You know what I mean? But it's fine. It's fine, right? It's fine, right? So these psychics, right? You feel me? Sybil and Celine, they got knocked off, but they didn't release a psychic burst. Why is that, Demetrius? Their death is extraordinarily specific as well, right? They were psychics, sure, but they were given immortality. They were given immortality by another psychic. They were given immortality by a psychic who can take it away. You feel me? They didn't die to like some regular person. You know what I mean? They died by another. I'm trying to instill this in your brain because I want you to be really like, okay, I understand once I get to what I gotta say. Watch this. They died to another psychic. Specifically, you have to be very concise when I say that. Now let's get to Cade. He died to a village. He died an ordinary death, of course by fire. But hey, who cares? You know what I mean? It's like whatever. It's still an ordinary death. He died by a gathering, a mob. You know, he died by a mob. You know what I mean? An ordinary death, by all means, to be honest. Sybil and Celine didn't let out a psychic burst, but Cade dying an ordinary death, he let out a psychic burst. I'm about to say something really quickly. It's about to be very controversial after you realize what I'm about to get into. It's about to get real crazy. But theoretically, if you're a psychic, let's really lock in, and you die, there's two things that could possibly happen. One is it's autonomous. What do you mean by that, Demetrius? It means that if you die, maybe you release automatically a psychic burst. Now, mind you, in TVD, I'm pretty sure they say he accidentally I think they said he intentionally did it. Actually, or he accidentally, I don't know, intentionally or accidentally released a psychic burst. But let's say that in theory, if you're a psychic and you die a death by just random death, right? If you die, just die. You feel me? That means that what if you automatically release a psychic burst? Now, mind you, if you know anything about TVD, you know what a psychic burst leads to. Everyone and their mother knows what a psychic burst leads to if they've actually seen the show. It leads to you having your own dimension. Lifelike, John. You feel me? Lifelike, John. You feel me? Very worldwide, very huge dimension to yourself. I'm going to get into that later on in this video. Another thing. Let's say if Bonnie dies, right? And she intentionally is able to, okay, cool. Let me intentionally release a psychic burst. Hope is coming over here with a fatal blow. Wham! Decapitation style, right? Shoom! Right? Hope is coming over here with a fatal burst. Shoom! Right? Bonnie's like, all right, cool. Let me activate this psychic burst. Boom. She dies, right? Bonnie does indeed die, right? But she activates this psychic burst. After activating that psychic burst, even in her death, she spawns out of nowhere her own dimension. And so I'm about to get very nerdy. I'm about to get very geeky right now. You feel me? But in this dimension, she's not going into the afterlife, so to speak. You feel me? She died, sure, but her soul, her very essence, the gloriousness of the Bennett bloodline flows within Big Papa. You feel me? She goes straight from her death, right, into her soul gets placed and her essence gets placed into her own dimension that she has manifested via the psychicness. The psychicness. Watch out. The psychicness. Right. So we're not talking peace here. We're not talking limbo. You know what I mean? We're not talking, everything else was pretty much destroyed, but we're not talking about limbo or peace here. We're talking straight up, full-fledged, I died, sure, kinda, but really I just stepped onto another dimension. Well, I just stepped onto my dimension. I left the mortal plane and I stepped onto my dimension. I didn't really go into the afterlife. I didn't really go into limbo so I can then go to peace. You know what I mean? You dig me? She created her own John. But you know what's crazy about this realization? It's not the fact that she created her own dimension. It is the fact what she can do once in her dimension. Put the thinking cap on. After you do that, I mean, you can become 30 times more smart. You know what I mean? Look at this. Whilst in her dimension, she's not going to the afterlife. I've said that like a trillion times now. But when in her dimension, she can stay in her dimension forever and just chill. But it's not just chilling, you know what I mean? It's not just chilling, is it? You know what I mean? Truly, I mean, when it comes to Bonnie, she's always been eager to learn magic. You know, that's not really true, to be honest. But she did start to become very interested in magic and like very into her witchcraft, you know. As far as like being in her dimension, she could just spend 2,000 years, 3,000 years, 4,000, huh? 5,000, huh? 6,000, huh? She could spend like a cool 6,000 years inside her dimension and really cook up. And what do you mean by that, Demetrius? What would she be doing inside this dimension that makes her so special? Come on, let me know. When Cade died, he was placed inside his own dimension. And whilst in that dimension, even before he met a Sybil or Selene, right? Even before he met a Sybil and Selene, he acquired immortality. He stayed inside that dimension so long, honing his skills to the point where he got to the point where he can acquire immortality. He stayed inside of that dimension so long to where to the point where he could take out his own, you dig me, to the point where he could have fire on his hand. Really, he stayed inside the dimension that he created so long to the point where he was able to give himself immortality with little to no issue, period. And also he was able to give others immortality. That's a whole different discussion. We're here for some Hope versus Bonnie, you feel me? But that's a whole different discussion. She loves playing judge, jury, and executioner, Bonnie does. So she would easily adhere to the whole conditions of having this dimension and like having this immortality, to be honest. You know what I mean? Not the dimension. The dimension just is a natural essence of who she is because of her psychic genes, right? You know what I mean? But as far as the immortality of it all, you feel me? She would be totally fine with giving up evil people, evil souls, you know, and placing them inside of her dimension, consuming those souls. She would be totally fine with that. Now, of course, you feel me? Each witch have their own things as far as like how their immortality truly operates, to be honest. So she would probably find some type of different way to go about acquiring this immortality. But we would still have the same outcome, right? She acquires immortality whilst in this dimension. Now, mind you, she's dealt with the Cade. You feel me? Dealt with the Silas. You feel me? I feel like we have 8 seasons of this, but as you go along through this journey with Bonnie, she takes a little bit from each person, right? She's cold-hearted. She takes a little bit of coldness in her soul from Silas after everything he put her through. You know, with Cade, she takes this optimistic, oh my gosh, what can my psychic abilities teach me this morning? With Grams, you know what I mean? This appreciation for our ancestors, you know? And then we can go on and on and on and on and on. Oh yeah, with Ketsia, you feel me? Not to trust men. So I feel like low-key, I won't lie, Bonnie could do 2 things, right? She could wait like 5,000 years and become even more honed at psychic abilities than Cade. Or she could take these things, right? All the things that made her Bonnie Bennett, right? And learn immortality and take advantage of nature, you know what I mean? Truly. And wield nature or use nature to her advantage. There we go. And gain immortality that way, acquire immortality that way faster than just like staying in there for like 4,000 years. You know what I mean? I'd low-key think that Bonnie would figure out a way to gain immortality way quicker than it taking 4,000 years. I won't lie to you. You feel me? But on the off chance that it does take longer, I would say stay in there for a cool 5,000. You feel me? Get stronger than Cade. You dig me? Get more honed up than Cade, then pop back out. Another thing about Cade, once he acquired this immortality, in truth, I'm gonna be very honest with you, Cade could immediately cross back over to the mortal plane. Demetrius, what are you saying, Demetrius? What I'm saying is that before even meeting Sybil and Celine, before acquiring and giving and granting them immortality, you know, I'm telling you that he acquired immortality for himself, and he was already destroying and consuming souls, you know? I mean, there was a story about him, for God's sakes, before he ever showed up for Sybil and Celine to give them immortality. When it comes to Bonnie, right? Cade stepped onto the mortal plane when Sybil and Celine were dying. He said, yeah, I died. I kind of am dead. You feel me? But he stepped onto the mortal plane. In theory, this means that Bonnie Bennett can be inside of her dimension, hone her powers, gain immortality, gift immortality to others, and step back on the mortal plane. Woo! And step back on the mortal plane if she wants to. I'm gonna put it into context for you Hope fans. You feel me? Me personally, I've never been a Hope fan. You feel me? I will glaze Hope at the end of this video, like I said before. But guys, I've never been a Hope fan. But I'm gonna put it into context for you. Cade didn't have a weapon that could kill him in existence until 1790. Let the church say amen. Amen? Let me say this again for you. You feel me? Let me say this again. Cade didn't have a weapon on Earth nor in his own dimension that could kill him until 1790. He didn't approach Sybil and Celine until what, 750 BCE? Wow! BCE specifically means before Common Era. What do you mean by that? I mean before Jesus Christ. Do you hear me? Cade didn't have a weapon that can kill him. Like even before Christ was born. Do you hear me? We're talking what? I don't want to get super specific real quick, but I think Christ was born in what? Like, I think it was like 0, and then it goes up to like 32 CE or 80, 32 or whatever the heck. You feel me? Like, come on now. Actually take in what I'm talking about when I say Cade. Cade. Now replace that person. Now replace Cade with Bonnie. If Cade didn't have a weapon that can kill him, the only reason, period, why he even had a weapon that could kill him was because he hired other people. He gave other people immortality, and they was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And they started seeking out for a weapon to kill him. You feel me? You feel me? I don't think Bonnie would ever, unless she fell in love with somebody else, I don't know. But I don't think Bonnie would ever give immortality to anyone else. You feel me? So there is nobody that's going to betray Bonnie. You dig me? Or just know enough about Bonnie to murk her or create a weapon to take her out. When you put TVDU into context, it becomes way crazier than the show actually seems. Way crazier. Cade was alive before paper. Silas before paper. Sybil Celine before paper. You dig me? Before paper existed, these people were alive. You dig me? 750 2 years? 750 to 752 years BCE? All the way up to 1790. There was no weapon both on Earth and in his dimension that could kill him. Period, point blank. You know how insane that is? I don't think people understand. And I feel like that makes him an even crazier sidekick because guess what? If you want to let's talk about it. People always say nature finds a balance. Nature finds a way to take people off this earth. You feel me? We've seen the white oak stake come back 1,000 times. Come back 1,000 times in reiterations as bullets and all type of stuff to take out the Mikaelsons. But let's really talk about this situation here. With Cade, he was satiating. He knew the function of the universe. A lot of people like to talk about the Vampire Diaries, but don't know the functioning, the operating of the nature. People say nature and balance and this and that, and they need balance. Nature doesn't really need balance. If you know exactly how to feed nature, and how to satiate nature, you feel me, in the Vampire Diaries world, then you're good. You're good. You know why? And I'm going to tell you really quickly because a lot of people don't know the operating fact. The only thing that matters to nature in the Vampire Diaries world is once people die, you take them the hell off that earth. That's exactly what it is. And Cade figured this out in his youth. No, I'm just playing. He was like 30-something when he figured this out. But he figured this out relatively, you feel me, quickly. I'm not going to lie. He figured it out relatively quickly. Once he created his own dimension, you feel me? And he was able to like consume these evil souls. I could care less. I don't think nature really give a crap if they're evil souls or not, to be honest. But once he consumed these souls, period, right? He's alleviating the TVD world, right? Of these souls. You feel me? Because TVD has limbo, right? We have limbo. But Lynn was alleviating the souls by taking them to peace, right? There's this world, right? TVD world is right here. We have limbo also on this world. Lynn was like, everybody's walking around aimlessly in limbo. Let me just take those people, bring them over to our world, right? To peace, right? That's nice and dandy. That's cool. Nature was like, I don't care. I don't really care about what you're talking about. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care. But let's talk about Cade really quickly. Cade creates his own dimension by accident or intentional. I can't remember, to be honest. But I think he just had a lot of hatred. So, I mean, that's pretty much what ends up happening. And so he creates his own dimension. Wham. And his contract with nature, right? The operation of nature, right? It was nothing too crazy. For a lot of people, when they see 2009 TVD, everything is like, oh my gosh, I can't do magic because my nose starts bleeding. I can't do magic because this. I can't make you immortal because of this. I can't. All these consequences, all these conventional witches, all these my servants with the servants of nature. It's ridiculous. It's actually ridiculous. Because Cade figured out this one secret of the universe. That's basically the secret of the universe. Alleviate the souls from the TVD world. When someone dies, they have to go somewhere. You feel me? Now, by Cade placing some of these souls inside his own dimension and then consuming these souls, to be honest, you feel me? He was able to bargain with nature, which is the TVD world, right? Anything that he wanted because he was alleviating souls from this world and placing them onto his dimension. That's the only operating and operation of, and only, how do I say this? That's the only thing that matters for nature, period. You feel me? So when they was making like heretics and tribus was getting created and hybris was getting created, everybody was looking at nature like, what the hell are you doing over there? I thought you didn't like. I thought this was an abomination. But why are we having hybrids, tribrids? Why are we getting like a hybrid army low key? Why are you letting Klaus do all this other stuff? Da, da, da. Nature doesn't care about that stuff. Nature was before Lynn showed up to place these aimless bodies or place these aimless souls onto the afterworld, not the afterworld, onto peace. You feel me? Or into peace. Nature was gonna allow a mother and her daughter who died due to like battle and war to just wander aimlessly. You feel me? Wander aimlessly through this world. You feel me? Through limbo without anything. You feel me? So it was Lynn who did that. You feel me? When it comes to Cade, right? Figuring out this alleviation of the souls and placing them onto his dimension instead of it being over here with limbo. Nature was like okay, cool, I have limbo right here. We have the afterlife over here. We have peace over here. And we have your hell dimension, right? Okay, cool. What do you want in exchange, pretty much? You feel me? Nature was ready to give up whatever. You dig me? Like, then we have, okay, so we have the limbo right here, peace over here, and you have a hell dimension. That's 3 places they can go. Nice. Alleviation. Allocation. Oh, I didn't put the mic down, everything. But it's fine. It's fine. When we're talking about Cade over here, then trading that alleviation and allocation, you feel me, of souls onto his world, well, his dimension, right? He was able to get immortality. Because it doesn't matter, because he's doing his part in actually insanely alleviating these souls to such a high degree, you feel me, to the point where it's like he's passively doing his part. You feel me? Simple as that. It wasn't only until he acquired servants to do it with him, or do it for him, shall I say, that it became an issue. You feel me? If he didn't acquire servants to do it with him, you feel me? Then it would be like, he would be fine. He wouldn't even have a weapon that could be formed against him. He wouldn't, how much that could be formed against him? He wouldn't have a weapon in existence that could take him out. It was actually acquiring help that did him in, you know. And Bonnie, I don't see Bonnie asking anybody for help, to be honest. She wants to live out this whole life of I'm the baddest witch of all time by myself, and no one helped me, and I'm just cooler than everybody else. So she would, of course, do everything alone. You feel me? So there is no killing Bonnie, period. I don't like, there is no killing Bonnie unless Hope like asks this Jin, can I get a god weapon and whatever. But then again, even then it's like, can you really? Because even with the whole god weapon situation, there had to be red oak with the god weapon so it could like, man, look, harm Hope Mikaelson. So you really had to really go, you dig me. But my main point, right? My main point is that once Bonnie steps back onto the mortal plane after acquiring immortality, she's going to be the woman version of Cade. And in doing so, and in becoming so, she's going to be extraordinarily hard to kill. Extraordinarily hard to kill. And you're not going to know the ingredients to take her out. You feel me? The very essence of witchcraft. Let me say this very honestly and openly. Human being, right quick. The very essence of witchcraft that we've seen in the Vampire Diaries. All of it comes from, okay, I could say like expression doesn't come from sidekicks, but all of it, you feel me? Majority of all of it, 99% of it, at least I suppose, comes from psychic energy. There is no weapon that you can form against me that you even know of, Hope Mikaelson, Hope Andrea Mikaelson, to take me out at all. But guess what? I've seen legacies. You feel me? I've heard about you, Andrea. I know the red oak can take you out. I know, Andrea. So let's say this. Bonnie comes back onto the mortal plane. Nice. Cool. Fine. She's a trillion times stronger. She's a trillion times harder to kill because now she has immortality and she's a psychic and she's a functioning witch on top of being a psychic. Can I speak really quickly? Because I just thought something else. Mortal Bonnie was having quagmires a little bit. You feel me? She was having a hard time wielding expression, but because she's immortal, you feel me? If she wanted to channel herself If she wanted to channel herself to wield all the expressions she want to wield, you feel me? She could do so now. She could do so now, theoretically, because she is immortal. There is no killing her. You feel me? There's only probably murking other people by accident. You feel me? In this pursuit of greater expression powers, to be honest. But she could full force, without any consequence, wield expression to the highest extent. And mind you, oh my gosh, what's that girl name? There was this lady, right, in like 1942 New Orleans, right, with Stephen and Damon, and she says that tapping into expression is such a dark piece of magic to the point where it could quite literally destroy this world. You feel me? It's literal magic that could absolutely mollywop this world. If you really wanted to tap into it, like heavily, it's too dangerous for sure. You feel me? Like I said, Bonnie having a dimension of her own off the rip, she doesn't need this world. You feel me? So she could really start snapping when it comes to expression, and just like an endless source of power for Bonnie when it comes to expression. Not that she would have already had seen stronger magic in her own dimension. You know what I mean? But whatever. And then let's say this, right? Everybody get to the very end here. Let's say she pulls up on Hope, right? This Bonnie right here, mind you, Hope, bow, took out Bonnie. Boom, right? She comes back 1,000,000,000,000 times stronger. Back onto the mortal plane, 1,000,000,000,000 times stronger. Now you're dealing with, by the way, let me be very concise in my words here, but now you're dealing with a sidekick who's also a fully functioning witch, who's also immortal, who also still has the ability to compel you. Hope Mikaelson? Hope Andrea Mikaelson? She has the ability to compel you. She doesn't have to lift a finger. She literally has to just speak. Stop moving. Hope, Andrea, you know what? Andrea, stop moving. Andrea, go find the red oak steak and really do that to you. Do it to me. You feel me? Andrea, go find the red oak and do that to you. Andrea, do it to you. You feel me? Go get it. You know what? Stay here. You feel me? We can go and call one of your friends, you feel me? And I'll just compel them to go get it. And then, why you standing there? Because I just compelled you. So why you standing there? You dig me? We'll be here waiting. We'll just be here waiting. You feel me? And then when they get over there, when they give it to me, I could just do my due diligence. You feel me? And get you up out of here. It's the easiest thing in the world. Now, mind you, that's how that would go. That's how that showdown would go, period, point blank. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. This is the total impact of the Bonnie and Hope head collision. You feel me? Genuinely, period, point blank. As far as glazing Hope, right? Let's glaze Hope really quickly. Hope Mikaelson was not nerfed in Legacies. In fact, in season 1 and many the rest of the season, you feel me? There was literally just Hope doing most of the work. Period, point blank. Everybody else tried to help and stuff like that, but they suck. MG, just a vampire. Now, of course, he's a ripper, but like, you know, we come on. You know what I mean? When it comes to Caleb or when it comes to anybody else, you know what I mean? Raphael. I'll say Raphael. When it comes to Raphael or Landon or Lizzie and Josie, you feel me? They tried to make them cool characters, you feel me? As far as useful characters, not cool, but useful characters. But in truth, it was Hope every time, pretty much putting Belt to, you dig me, alone. She was doing that stuff. She was out in the field alone, most of the time. It wasn't until later on that they come up with the Avengers. We're the Avengers, right? In Legacies. So when people say that Hope Mikaelson was nerfed, I'm looking at them crazy because what do you mean? In fact, she was taking on creatures. Let me put it into context. People like to speak with zero context. They don't have any context. They can't put it into context like I can put it into context. That sounds snobbish, but I'm being serious. Malivore, right? Before the 1400s, right? Malivore was out here consuming creatures. Before the 1400s, right? 13, 12, 11, 10. So I think about like for what, 400 years? I'll say like for 400 years. He was out here. Yeah, I'll say for like 400 years. He was out here consuming creatures. I'll say even 300. I'm going to say like 300 years because he's not as old as like the Mikaelsons. He's like maybe like 100 years younger than the Mikaelsons. So for like 300 years, the Malivore is out here consuming creatures. If you don't know, I'm going to tell you exactly what's happening right now. The whole Klaus people, Klaus and his family, They were still alive when dragons were roaming, when dragons were the apex predator in this universe, when Silas and Ketsi and all them, they was alive when dragons was around, you feel me? Klaus Mikaelson was also around when dragons were around, you feel me? The context of this universe is never spoken about, you feel me? Once you really dive into it, you can understand what I'm about to say really quickly. Okay, when it comes to Malivore, right? And his appearance, right? I feel like the first species that he truly takes out was like, you feel me, the dragons, to be honestly. And then he goes on, right? These are dangerous species. These aren't like just child's play. These are real deal heavy hitters, apex predators. In 2009, we're chilling. 2009, the witches are like the apex predators of this universe. You feel me? In 2009, then again, we have like Cade was around. Sybil was around. Celine was around, you feel me? Of course, they was like locked up, but they were still like a species, you feel me? But it's like, in truth, like everybody that wasn't persecuted, let's say persecuted, right? The witches became the apex predators almost because they weren't persecuted throughout time, pretty much. Because of Malivore taking out the dragons. The dragons were the apex predator forever! The dragons were the apex predator when Silas and Amara and Ketsia were alive. The dragons were the apex predator when the Mikaelsons just became vampires. Mind you, when you put it to context, that sounds crazy, right? Because the Mikaelsons are just, oh my gosh, but they was really ducking a taco too. No, just chill out. But yeah, like dragons was really the apex predators above all these people until Malivore came, took him up out of there. Wham, hello, you feel me? And mind you, that's not just a small predator. Like I said earlier, these are real heavy hitters. In season 1, I think episode 2, we see Hope take on a dragon. She really belt. You give her a belt, straight gas, you feel me? And it becomes this whole thing of like, I don't know what y'all want Hope to do. I mean, she's taking out ancient creatures. It's so poetic, right? Because Hope is literally being shown to take out a creature who was the apex predator of the supernatural universe. Not even supernatural universe, but the TVD world. Because I always have to include the gods, right? They have their own world, but I also have to include them. They did colonize, technically, this world, you know? But anyways, we have like the dragons, right? And we're seeing in like episode 2, Hope is actually giving belt to a dragon who literally, canonically, was giving belt to the entire witch community, who canonically is now the apex predator, aside from, of course, Hope Mikaelson, but then she's again part witch, so you can also include that into your thesis. Anyways, when we're talking about other ancient creatures, right? Like Malivore for 300 years was consuming mad ancient creatures. Wham, 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 wham. Really getting in there with a lot of ancient creatures. Then let's go to the 1400s. 1400s, he comes across who? Cleo Sarande! He comes across Cleo. And this is a young lady, right? She's a muse, right? She's a witch, but she's also a muse, right? She's a witch with a special ability. She's a witch with a special ability, right? And she's able to, through inspiration, create anything. You feel me? Like really bring things to life. Malivore becomes, he's becoming sentient with the more people or the more creatures he consumes. And what ends up happening is he feels his insatiable need to continue feeding, but he finds that like, okay, I see a muse, you feel me? If I can have her create species for me, then I won't ever be hungry for real. I can satisfy my hunger. You know what I mean? And he's like, hey, let's get it. You feel me? He takes Cleo. This is 14th century, baby. This is 14th century. And so from the 14th century, now Cleo, mind you, he already was eating and consuming ancient creatures. But when you have the 14th century and you have Cleo creating insane things from her mind, you feel me? So he can consume these creatures. You put those two together, you put the ancient creatures with the people from the 14th century. 14th century is still crazy. We're dealing with Catherine? We're dealing with like 500 year old woo bang bang, you feel me? We're dealing with like 500-year-old creatures here. You feel me? Nothing less. You dig me? And Hope is taking on these creatures every week, every time, every episode. So when we're talking about she's nerfed, that sounds ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, to be honest, because while being maybe 17. She's actually cooking. I think she's like 16 or 17 or something like that. She's actually cooking up the entire time in Legacies. The entire time. That was the glaze session for Hope. Now, there's just one last thing I wanted to say. I spoke about this earlier, but this whole situation with Bonnie being the strongest is so tough. It's so tough. Just something as like short as 2 weeks ago, I would have said Silas was awesome. Silas was great. And to me, he has a great backstory. But I mean, truly, there is no getting around the fact that Bonnie alone is the strongest. You feel me? And there's this whole thing, right? When it comes to Hope fans and Bonnie fans, or Hope fans specifically, she says, Julie said that she wanted to make an epic scene. That's why Bonnie's ancestors was there. Da 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 da. Whole time, if you put something in the universe, I don't give a... You dig me? I don't care if you made the universe. You didn't really even make the universe. Shout out to Lissa Jane. Oh, bro! Shout out to Lissa Jane. You feel me? If you put something in this curated universe, right, and you show it visually, right, that's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. You the one who chose... Now, mind you, you want to be racist to Bonnie. You chose to make Bonnie, you want to have this epic Bennett moment, you feel me? And your racism backfired. And now, canonically, Bonnie can pull her ancestors from peace all the way over to the mortal plane and utilize their abilities, making her, making her the strongest TVDU, not TVDU, but the strongest TVD world character. You feel me? Because I always gotta, like I said, I always gotta include the gods. Like I always gotta. That Ken is my dog. I ain't gonna lie. Ken is my dog. Jen, she's a betrayer. She's annoying, but she's also kind of dope. I'm not gonna lie. She's so dope. I ain't gonna lie. Ken, my dog. I ain't gonna lie though. But I always gotta. But still, you feel me? Like your racism backfired, and that's what happens when you be a racist. You know what I mean? You create the strongest TVD world character, and it's fine. You feel me? It's fine. You feel me? It's not my fault. You feel me? It's your fault. You feel me? Racism backfired to create the strongest freaking TVD world character ever. So she's the GOAT, and she's giving Hope belt. And with that being said, I'm gonna get out of here because on to next time.